Welcome back to Project 94, and today, September 7th of 2023, at 10:36 a.m., we have just received the biggest news that we've ever gotten for fans of the Daytona franchise. And you guys know in my videos that I made about how to improve NASCAR video games, that Daytona USA 2 was the most mentioned title for a multitude of reasons, outside of the fact that it is an arcade game. Of course, many fans like me who have had this game as a part of their childhood know how heartbreaking it was to not have a home port of this game for so long. Daytona USA 2 is one of my favorite video games ever made. Honestly, it looks to be one of the best, most enjoyable games. And I would have played it a lot had it had a home port. And you'd probably say, well, Project 94, you'd probably just get tired of playing it after 3 weeks. No, I don't think so. Because, honestly, Daytona USA 2 is honestly my type of racing game. It's a fun racing game to play about fictional stock car racing. And before I start to continue this video, I'm gonna announce this. For those of you who have been watching the How to Improve NASCAR Video Games series, some of you guys are watching this, I'm not saying that this game right here is a replacement for a NASCAR game. While it's good timing and just kind of coincidental that we're not going to get another NASCAR game in like maybe 2 or 3 years. So this, and I was literally going to make a video about this until today. This is the golden opportunity for the Daytona franchise to shine. Especially when there's no other NASCAR games or stock car racing games on the market. You guys are going to get something this year. While it's not a sim racing game and it's 25 years old, you guys are going to get to play something. That's something to be excited for. And who knows, if enough people like this game, they'll probably make more of it. And maybe the, the fictional sponsors and tracks and stuff, maybe the NASCAR or any gaming developers looking to make a fictional stock car racing game can get some inspiration to make a more sim title. See where this is going? It's more than just, for me, an exciting... Because for me, this is an exciting moment. It's a happy moment in 2023, one of the very few happy moments of 2023. But this right here, for me, is a big deal. Because I've been wanting this game so long on the home consoles, and we are going to be getting it. So I'm going to go and read this article right here. After 25 years... Sega is bringing Daytona USA 2 to consoles for the first time. The arcade racing sequel will be playable in the next, Like a Dragon entry. What a name for a game. I had to read that. The arcade racing sequel will be playable in the next Like a Dragon entry. So this Like a Dragon, I'll be the first to tell you that I know nothing about this Like a Dragon thing, franchise. It's just something that I just found out about now, because I'm not a regular when it comes to non-racing Sega games. As you can see, classic Sega arcade racing game Daytona USA 2 will receive its first ever home port. 25 years. Let me emphasize that. 25 years after it was released in arcades. That's according to the latest issue of Japanese magazine Famitsu, read by VGC, which reports that the 1998 racer will appear in Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name, as the renamed Sega Racing Classic 2 in order to avoid rights issues. I'm going to stop right there. Like I said, I know nothing about this Like a Dragon Gaiden franchise, whatever. But 6 years ago, before I had a YouTube channel, I made a prediction, and I'm so sad that I did not record myself at the time, because then my prediction would have been validated. I predicted that, so the first Daytona USA game was re-released as Sega Racing Classic in like 2008 or 2009. I'm not sure. I don't remember one of those years. I knew at some point that they would release this game as Sega Racing Classic 2. Because if you played the Daytona USA 2 game, there really was no reason to have the Daytona licensing attached to it. It's not really a big part of the game, other than it's just name that it's licensed under. For instance, you don't have any licensed NASCAR stuff in the game, or you don't even have Daytona International Speedway in the game. So it would make sense to me that they would release this game under that name, under a different name. And this is exactly what's happening. And I'm not saying, that I know everything, because I usually don't make predictions and put them on YouTube. And a lot of the time, sometimes it doesn't even come true. But I'm bringing this up, that I made this prediction right here, that they would bring this game back. So I figured I'd bring that up. I honestly, I'll admit it, I'm guilty for liking to take credit for things. I'll just put it like that. But you take that for what it is. I'm just really excited right now. Originally, Daytona USA 2 was planned to be released on the Dreamcast, but the project was quietly cancelled and a special version of the original Daytona USA 2001 took its place. So if you guys remember, Daytona USA 2 was supposed to be on the Dreamcast, but it was cancelled, and instead we got Daytona USA 2001, which is the primary console release. We got some stuff on the older Sega consoles, but they were not even close to the standards expected of this franchise. So for a while, Daytona USA 2001 was the best way to play this game at home as a new game. Other arcade games set to appear in the next Like a Dragon are Fighting Vipers 2, which was only a Dreamcast port in Japan and Europe, Flicky and Galaxy Force. Previous games in the Yakuza series have let players discover and play classic Sega arcade games. The likes of Space Harrier, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, because I don't play these games, Fantasy Zone, Virtua Fighter 2, Super Hang-On, and Puyo Puyo have been playable in the past. In the spin-off series Judgment, players were able to play Outrun and then its sequel. A playable Master System console was available with several games. And let me pause it right there for a second. This appears to be, it doesn't look like something you can buy individually. Like, you have to buy this, the way I'm understanding is you have to buy this Like a Dragon, or not Like a Dragon, what was this thing called? Let me go back. The Like a Dragon Gaiden, that game. So it doesn't look like something you can buy on its own. Like, you can't just go to the PSN store, the Microsoft store, the Switch store to just buy the game for like $5 or $10. It does look like something you have to buy another whole game for to play it. I'm not really sure how I feel about that. I really don't want to buy this Dragon game or whatever just to play. I don't want to pay $60 for that game just to play Daytona USA 2, or what is now going to be called Sega Racing Classic 2, as I predicted. So, yeah, that's not really the best thing. Personally, I would rather them release it as an individual downloadable game, but it doesn't seem like that's in their plans right now. I'm not saying it's completely out of the cards. We might just get it. But what I will do is I'll probably wait a couple months to see if this game does get an individual release, so like that I don't have to buy that whole game just to play this. Now, if a period of time goes by and it's a while and it doesn't get an individual downloadable game link, then I'll just have to buy this. I'll just have to bend over and buy this game just to play this. And honestly, it's really up to you. Like, would you rather pay $60 to buy that whole game just to play this one? That's going to be up to the player. And I feel like for a lot of people, especially if this game bombs, like this Dragon game completely sucks, they'll buy that game just to play this, or whatever other games they want to play. So maybe that's what they're thinking here. We can bring in extra money for this game. People that don't even know that franchise will buy this game to play that original Daytona game. That's what I think is happening. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Sega's parent company, Sega Sammy, sold off the remainder of its arcade business in 2022. So it looks like, I guess Sega is done making the arcade games. Because, you know, most people are playing, you know, home consoles. Following the sale, Sega Entertainment was renamed to Genda Geigo or Gigo Entertainment, and all Sega game centers across Japan had their Sega branding changed to Gigo. So it looks like Gigo is going to be the new name for this thing. I mean, it doesn't really matter that much to me. Although Sega's entertainment business ran its arcade locations, the company manufactured and sold arcade machines itself separately and will likely continue to do so. And that looks to be the end of the article. So this is obviously big news, okay? As this page is just reloading because I swiped up. Obviously, Daytona USA 2, a lot of people, there is a huge market for this franchise, and all we've gotten over the years for home ports were just not the best remakes on the, what was the original Sega called? The Saturn. The Sega Saturn. We got some ports of the game, and the Circuit Edition wasn't really that fun to play, and it really wasn't what the fans, and this is what here's my idea. So those games weren't really what the fans were wanting, right? So when Daytona USA 2 came out, people fell in love with it in the arcades, and they wanted to have a home port, but I guess they were having technical problems porting the Sega Model 3 game onto the Dreamcast. For whatever reason, whatever the struggle is that they had. So they gave us, instead, Daytona USA 2001. And I want to address something really quickly about that game. We could just leave it up here. I'm not reading this anymore. Let me just find the point. There it is. As they mentioned here, Daytona USA 1 took its place on the Dreamcast. Daytona USA 2001, it was not a bad game. I haven't played it because I don't own any Sega consoles, but watching people play it, it doesn't seem like it was a bad game. Like, it didn't have any, like, major bugs or glitchy issues, or didn't feel unfinished or anything like that. It's just, it's not what the fans were wanting. You know, it's not what the fans, not the game they were hoping for, right? They wanted to play this game here that you're seeing, Daytona USA 2. This was the main draw, this game. They wanted this to play at home, but they never did it. They gave us 2001, which, like I said, is not a bad game. It's just not what the fans wanted. This is what the fans were wanting. They wanted a port of this game, Daytona USA 2, but never got it because, like I said, I still don't know what the technological issue was. I'm not a professional game development expert, so I really can't go into detail as to why they had difficulties porting it, but for whatever the reason was, they just couldn't do it. So for 25 years, people have been asking and questioning about this game, about when are we going to get it. I see it all the time in comment sections, and for years I got less and less confident that they would make a home port. But then I had bumped into Sega Racing Classic, the first game. And this goes back to one of my other points that I was making. That game was the arcade game, but made for the... did they ever make Sega Racing Classic? I'm sure they did. They did do the Daytona USA on the consoles. But let me just type up Sega Racing Classic and see where it was ported to, or if it wasn't ported. Let me check really quick in the middle of the video here. To my knowledge, I've only seen that in the arcades. So let me just double check this one more time. Sega Racing Classic. So this was released as an arcade board, it looks like. So Sega Racing Classic is an HD remake of the classic arcade racer Daytona USA using the ring-wide arcade board. It was first shown at a private showing at the 2009 2009, there it is, JAMA Expo, and it's expected to have a wide release in 2010. So it doesn't look like this was made on the consoles, but they did port it as Daytona USA on the consoles. But this shows that the Sega Racing Classic name that they're using, this shows that this game could have been mass released without the Daytona license, even if they were losing the licensing a few years after the second game. If they were willing to and if they wanted to, I feel like by now they would have given us this game under the Sega Racing Classic name. They would have done it by now if it was in their best interest. But for whatever reason, I guess it wasn't for 25 years. So now I think they're finally starting to realize how badly people wanted to play this game. Okay? So finally, it looks like they're going to give us the access to it under the Sega Racing Classic name. Other than it's just going to be Sega Racing Classic 2. So whenever they come out with this, when this Dragon Gaiden game comes out, or when they finally make an individual release of this game, maybe they'll realize that, you know what, there actually is a market. You're not going to tell me that there's not a market for this game, when I've seen so many people in the comments section saying they've wanted to play it and can't because they don't know how to run the emulators. So thank God that I figured this out now, because I was literally almost about to emulate this game, or try to, and take a big risk. Thankfully, doesn't look like I'll have to do that now, because it looks like we will be getting this as a home port at last. Daytona USA 2. And the last thing I wanted to bring up, it doesn't mention here if they're going to do the Battle on the Edge or the Power Edition. It doesn't say which particular. Are they going to still do this Battle on the Edge? Because if you remember, both versions were different. There was a change on one of the tracks, and there was an additional car and a sponsor swap on one of the cars. So Chum's Gum was changed to JC Eagle, and they added Hornet to the game, the car that would look like the Hornet and drove exactly the way it did in the original game. It handled everything about it was like it was in the original, just in the second game. That's what you got with Power Edition. And don't forget the more realistic looking track for the oval circuit. It was changed to the Sega Speedway, or whatever it was called. But on the Battle on the Edge had the Forest Dome and only 3 cars, and the easy difficulty car, Chum's Gum, instead of JC Eagle. I'm not sure why these changes were made for that in particular, but I know why they changed the track. It was to make it appeal more to NASCAR in real life, and people wanted to play with the original Hornet. And the biggest feature of that second version, which was Power Edition, is it gave us a mega race option, like an endurance mode where it mixed all 3 tracks together. So my question is, what version of this game are they going to port? Battle on the Edge or Power Edition? So, I mean, it could be it's not really a make or break thing for me at the moment. That might change. But I could see how people would say, well, Power Edition had X, Y, and Z, whereas the original version, Battle on the Edge, we don't really prefer that as much as Power Edition. So for people that like Power Edition, are they still going to want to play it if it's not Power Edition ported, if they choose to do just Battle on the Edge? Are we going to be able to, like, alternate between the both versions? Like, I don't know the details of that. Well, that's just something we're going to have to wait and see. Because I know that could be a deal breaker for some people. For me, I just want to play the game again. But there's going to be people that have that question. So, other than that, we are going to get this game ported to the house, finally, through this Dragon game here. This Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who will erase his name. I know if they don't make an individual release, it's going to suck having to play that game and having to unlock whatever hidden arcade thing. Because apparently this is like a hidden like a Easter egg or whatever that you're gonna have to unlock. That I'm not really looking forward to. But if they do not release this ever again, then we're gonna have to play this game. So this could be a stunt to get people to buy that game. Because I would never buy one of these Like a Dragon Gaiden games. Because it just doesn't appeal to me. This game does. So, maybe they're trying to get people to buy that game to play these old classic games that we've been waiting for. Maybe that's their strategy with making money off of people. That's the only thing that would make sense to me. But yeah, guys, that's going to be it. I made the announcement, or not the announcement, I read you the article. This is proof that it's going to happen. I hope this actually happens. I hope this isn't just some, like, joke or whatever. I don't think it is, because this website seems to be pretty credible. Man, I'm going to be so pissed if it's just something they made up, or if it just doesn't happen. Do you guys think they'll do this? I mean, it looks like it's going to be answered as a yes, but are you going to buy this Dragon game to play this game? Are you excited for it? Do you think it's a worthy investment of your money and your time? Let me know that in the comments down below. Thank you all for checking out this video. Comment, like, and subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next video here on the channel. And yeah, Daytona USA 2 is back on the consoles. Yes! It's good news. Alright, everybody. Make sure you know what you're doing when you're putting decals on your diecast.